be a stay-at-home mom or go back to work. That is a decision that I had to make 25 years ago. And now 25 years later, I can reflect on it and think about how I felt about it then and how I feel about it now. Hi, my name is Aibel. Welcome back to my channel. I am 50 years old, recently an empty nester, and I'm here to talk about life experiences. In some instances, like this one, stages and phases that are behind me, so I could tell you the full story. First and most importantly, this is a very personal decision and one that is based strictly on your particular situation and also your family's needs. And that is the basis for this decision and this choice. And it was definitely how I made mine 25 years ago. At the age of 26, we had our first child and we didn't have any money. And when my daughter was born, it was very clear that I had to go back to work. And so I did, and it worked out well. My income was still helpful. But then 3 years later, we had my second daughter. And at that point, childcare became a little bit more expensive. And we weren't sure that my salary was really even covering it. And so I decided to stay home. And I had a third child, and it was even, more logical for me to be home at that point. So I stayed home for several years. When my son, my youngest, was 4 years old, I really wanted to go back to work. And so I did. I went back to work and it worked out all right. I definitely did appreciate making some money, being back into the workforce. But it was a little bit chaotic, I'm not gonna lie. My kids were fine, they were cared for, but between my husband and I, it was definitely a little bit chaotic because now I was no longer available for anything and everything. And it was like, well, I can and well, I can't either. Well, I have to work. Well, guess what? I work too. And all of that, right? So that lasted for about 4 years. And I went back home and I stayed home for quite some time. Now, let me tell you, in those years that I just described, what I felt and how it worked out in those days. It was a little bit scary, right? Because we did know that we needed the money. We knew that we couldn't afford it. So this decision was not one that we made because we were just so comfortable and we could afford it and it was fine. No. It was none of those things. And we honestly were able to choose for me to stay home, not only because it made sense since I wasn't making enough to even cover childcare, but also because we had the loving support of our family. So I have to say that and state that because it's the honest truth. But it was, a situation that came with some degree of sacrifice. We weren't necessarily progressing, say, like some of our friends, some of our peers, had children a little bit older in life and they had a different situation than our own. And we were now paying for preschools. We had expenses that they didn't have, and we certainly couldn't, in those days progress at the same speed as some of our closest friends. And we knew that those were sacrifices that we were making, but I felt that it was fine, that it was worthwhile. And again, we also were able to make this choice because we had the support of our family. So I felt like, yes, this is definitely what I want to do. But of course, financially, I knew that it was definitely taking a toll. Then fast forward to when I did go back to work. Yes, it did help financially. I'm not sure that it really even helped that much, but it helped. But at the same time, it really threw us off. It really threw us off. It threw off the balances of the household because I was now no longer available, and that became just a point of arguing constantly. And at some point we decided that wasn't working out anymore, and I went back to staying home. And that was the right decision for us, and it worked out. And now looking back, I'm glad that I spent that time with my children. I'm super grateful, in fact, that I was always very present for my kids and that I was able to, in both instances, decide that I would stay home with them and that I would primarily take care of the kids and our home. And it worked out for us. It's just something that ultimately, where in that situation is where we found the most peace. Now, let me tell you some of the things that I dealt with because of this particular decision that I made. You're going to hear, well, you don't work. She doesn't work. He goes to work, but you don't work. I mean, you're gonna hear all of that opinions about, you don't work, and there's, he doesn't have the help of a second income, or, it would help if you worked, or, I mean, whatever. I don't even remember the exact terms that I heard, but I heard many. And that we all know that's nonsense, because stay-home moms work so hard. I just recall being so tired. So yes, I was present, but I will tell you, some of those memories are foggy from exhaustion. And it's just nonsense that you have to hear, and things that you know that you're being judged for with really no basis. So it doesn't really matter. And that should never be at all the basis for your decision, one way or the other. The same way that I don't think any woman should feel any guilt for going back to work if that is what she feels she wants to do, or what she feels that is best for her family. I don't feel that any woman should feel any guilt for staying home and feeling that that is what's best for her family. Like I said from the beginning of this video, there's no right or wrong answer in this conversation at all. It's really whatever works best for you. So yes, for many years I was a stay-home mom. It worked out very well for me. And the one thing that I will say, because I've heard a lot of things, a lot of talk about, how a woman should never be a stay-home mom because now you're at the mercy of your husband and you have no freedom and you have no independence, and a woman should always have her own income and her own means to support herself. And while all those things are true, I mean, all those points are valid, but I will tell you, for me, I always trusted that my husband had the welfare of not just our family, not just our children, but even my own, in his heart, in his mind, and that was his priority. And thankfully it worked out for me, right? Because we have been married for almost 26 years, and I am very happy to report that that is exactly the man that he was then, and it's exactly the man that he is now. So it did work out for me. So I understand the concerns, and I understand the points that are made surrounding, the fact that women should be independent and that women should have their own source of income. And I understand all of that and the importance of all of it. But I also don't think at the same time that fear should be the basis for this decision. I don't think that you should fear unless you have a reason to. I don't feel that fear in a marriage and lack of trust is a good thing for any purpose, right? And for this one, I feel it's the same thing. Like, I never feared. I trusted my husband entirely. I felt like we were both working towards a common goal, and that was whatever we felt was best for our family as a whole and best for our children. And that is what we did, and that's what we felt that we were doing, and I never had any mistrust whatsoever. So yes, I'm very fortunate for that. I'm very blessed, and I'm very grateful for that, and that is just how it worked out for me. So hopefully, if you are trying to decide between going back to work or staying home, I hope to God that it's not fear that's holding you back. You shouldn't be afraid if you're in a good marriage and you trust that your husband has your welfare also in mind. And so again, that's just how it worked out for me, and I'm very, very grateful. And fear of that particular thing was just never a part of my decision-making process. My kids are now older, they're all out of the house, and I'm just happy that I can look back and that I have all of those memories of being present with them. It's a huge fortune and blessing. I understand that not everyone can do that. Like I stated before, our family was also very helpful in making that possible for us. So yes, that is my story, and that's how it worked out for me. That's how it worked out for my kids and for my husband, and thankfully, it worked out pretty well. So if you are faced with that decision right now of whether to be a stay-home mom or go back to work, again, just really base your choice on what you feel in your heart that is best for your family. I used to always think, well, in those days I would think, if I have to look, ahead in the future 10 years, would I ever regret this or regret this, right? And I knew I was never going to regret staying home with the kids, even if we had to make some financial sacrifices, and even if our financial progress was significantly slowed down by it. I knew I was not going to regret it, and truthfully, here I am 25 years later, no regrets whatsoever. It worked out quite well for us. And another thing is that I hope you're not scared or have any sort of insecurity in making this decision based on whether you think your husband, would take care of you and your kids, or your significant other, by the way. So yeah, that's how it worked out for me. And whatever decision you make, I hope it works out wonderful for you, and that maybe 25 years down the line, you can look back and say, I'm glad I did it this way. And that way could be, going back to work because perhaps that's what's best for your family financially. Perhaps that's what's best for you emotionally. And all of it is just perfectly fine. Just perfectly fine. Honestly, I feel that as women and as moms, we're judged so harshly. And guess what? Most of the time by other women. And that's really unfortunate because being a mom is already hard enough and making these decisions is already tough enough. So being judged by other women, oh gosh, no need for it. No, it's too harsh. I just, want to really state the fact that for me, I'm just a woman's woman, and I support women in whatever decision they make, particularly when it comes to their children and their family. So good luck if this is a process that you find yourself in right now, and good luck with your babies. It's a long road. It's an incredible ride, and I hope that you enjoy it. God bless.